Two Spider Queen as the second map. Normal heroes we see here, wave clear, and lots of it.
Yes. You can see the commonly used heroes here, Zul, Zagara, Sylvanas, that just screams pushing, rotating, and just causing a lot of damage to the enemy structures. Now, Tetra, if you remember yesterday, Chinese teams are not afraid to play on Warheads Junction. This map wasn't banned so far either in this series. It is insane to me that all the other regions, Korea included, hate playing on that map, and they will ban it every single time. And China is like, oh, this map isn't too bad after all, so we're just going to play on it, and we're fine on it.
Well, that's a good thing for China. So, once they get onto the international stage, having that map in their back pocket is great because, yes, every other team is going to ban it out. It's like basically being first pick in the previous patch from now, where basically you didn't have to ban Tassadar because you knew the other team would ban it. That's the position that Chinese teams are in at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, Tomb of the Spider Queen makes for some of the most entertaining games if both teams are on equal footing. I just remember the Dignitas Fnatic series from last year's World Championship. Those were amazing. And if you can really stall the Web Weavers for long enough, it is actually pretty easy to get past 20. So a Nazebo, which we saw yesterday, could be a choice for either of the teams here.
We will have to see. For now, though, this ban phase looks familiar, only this time Zeratul slipping through. That Zarya getting banned out despite the fact that it wasn't as effective as SoA would have liked. Instead, they're banning it away to prevent it from being used against them. It's still an incredibly strong pick.
Very, very strong indeed, and it looks like China has at least one thing in common with the other regions across the globe. They don't want to play the shield game. Shields in general are a very eagerly discussed topic, especially in the pro scene right now. A lot of people think that shielding heroes like Tassadar or Zarya are very, very powerful, and they don't really want to play against it because it messes so much with your shot calling, with your focus fire, because it really makes it hard to punch through and kill a hero very quickly. So it is almost like a mutual agreement that at least one team is always going to ban the Tassadar at least.
Yeah, almost always. So first pick, Ragnaros immediately responded by Zeratul, no hesitation. But the Ragnaros, very strong, who will probably end up being the solo laner, or it could be in the rotation if they want to stack that Q even quicker. But Ragnaros is just such an incredible solo lane, there's a good chance they'll just leave him in the bot lane. Zeratul as the response from RPG. There's so many things you can combo with this, and also it denies it from the Ragnaros combo, the Void Prism into Sulfura Smash. So a lot during the Western Clash, it is absolutely terrifying.
It is very terrifying indeed, and there are so many heroes to combo Zeratul with. If you take a look at the European scene, for example, we've seen a lot of Zeratul Jaina combos. Dignitas, most importantly, known for executing that playstyle with Many on the Jaina, for example, just dealing tons of damage overall. But there are other heroes like Malfurion, for example, a very neutral support pick these days, but the entangling roots followed as a follow-up for the VP are just super deadly because it prevents the enemy team from running away after the VP expired. Tyke is coming relatively early. Normally you see Tyke as a reactionary hero if the enemies go for a lot of high HP. Warriors and tanks, for example?
Or Diablo or something like that. It's very strange to see it this early. Like, yeah, Odin kinda combos VP, but not really. Gul'dan would be a better response in that case. Jaina would be a better response. So Tychus, yeah, he's sort of a safe pick. Like, he's still okay in every situation. It's a very strange...
He doesn't really bring the best wave clear to the table either, because on this map, normally you prioritize heroes like Gul'dan or KT for that very specific reason. Even a Ragnaros...
Wasn't Overkill buffed recently, though? That might be some reasoning to when clear. Like, his auto-attack range was nerfed, and I think Overkill had a reduced cooldown.
Yeah, that's true. So Overkill being a little bit stronger than it used to be a couple of months ago, but...
I might be wrong on that.
If you want to go for top-notch wave clear, I think even Avala offers more in that regard with the strong multi-shots later on. But
it's a safe choice. Yeah. I just don't get it.
Maybe it's also a personal preference.
We both seem to disagree in that in our opinion, there are better heroes, but it's RPG's game.
Yeah. And, I mean, we're not going to argue with those guys because they showed a formidable performance in game number 1. So they know exactly what they're doing. And maybe they actually have some experience playing against SoA. You never know how many scrims there were between those two teams. And maybe they had good results with Tychus in the past against them. Or maybe it's just personal preference. Maybe one of their ranged assassin players just feels more comfortable on Tychus, and we can't stress enough how important that is. Like, sometimes you get to see players prioritizing heroes that might not be so meta, or that might not be the 100% go-to pick in that situation, but they just pick another one because of personal preference, and that is just as important as the quote-unquote meta prowess, if you will.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It is going to be fun. Like, you're 100% right in everything there, but I don't know. I'm still very much hung up on that Tychus. To me, it makes no sense, but we'll trust them. We will trust that RPG have shown they know what they are doing. So we'll see if it works for them. Batting out the ETC here, removing a tank that could be a problem for Tychus. ETC a little bit lower health, even though Tychus percentage damage obviously works on everyone. But ETC, big disruption for Zeratul combos, big lockdown onto Tychus can really punish him, and he's just one of the best tanks in the game. A solid ban from RPG.
Now, we have the infamous Oriel Vala combo here on the left-hand side for SoA. That basically leaves them up to going double support, potentially, because I think with Rag and Vala they have enough damage this time around, or they're going for more damage in the backline. Especially Gul'dan is still open. We saw what Gul'dan could do yesterday when E-Star just played him very, very well, and also Kiss was actually pretty good on that one game when they had Gul'dan in their ranks, and we see that ban coming in here as well. Gul'dan is just such a force to be reckoned with on this map. He offers a lot of wave clear, especially if he goes for the Q for the Fellflame build, which is rising in popularity more and more because of that strong burst damage against minion waves and other neutral objectives in general.
Yeah, the Fellflame build is very much a higher damage output than the Corruption. The Corruption is a lot more, is very effective in team fights. Like, it can be huge, but the Fellflame is just way more consistent. If you feel like you have the protection, it works so well. Varian coming in here as the tank for RPG.
Pleasure.
Here. We're getting in a little bit of that alliance love.
Absolutely, and keep in mind, Varian did receive some changes. I don't want to call it buffs, it was just a change. He is now a little bit more sustainable in the early stages of the game. He has a higher health pool now, and his taunt at level 10 got nerfed a little bit once again, so he now has a lower health pool, which doesn't really affect him too much, though, because if you play him as a Parian, yeah, exactly, you're going to get invulnerable most of the time anyway, plus you have the VP playstyle, which kind of enforces an aggressive playstyle, so you're not going to get focused or initiate on too much if everything goes according to RPG's plan.
I believe someone actually did the maths, and with the increased base health that Varian has, the nerf to the percentage health he gets from Taunt is actually very negligible, or at least a very,
Keep in mind the 15 armor as well after acquiring Taunt.
Exactly, he is insane. He is still very tanky, which is why that build is still popular, and all his other builds were buffed with that health buff.
Yes.
So it is, in my opinion, it's a good change. Like I said, it's not 100% a buff, but it's a good change. Now we see SoA finishing up with Johanna, insane wave clear, very tanky, very solid here, and Nazeebo. So they are getting more damage as opposed to a second support here, but Nazeebo, the ultimate hero for this map. The ultimate late game, there's a very good chance you'll hit level 20, and it's almost impossible to not get fully stacked on your Vile Infection by the time you hit it.
Whenever I play against a Nazeebo, or whenever teams play against a Nazeebo in the competitive scene, it's almost like playing against a ticking time bomb. Like, you have this counter against you. The closer you get to level 20, the more you're starting to sweat, because you know that once the Vile Infection is online, you're going to be in some serious trouble if you hadn't managed to get a significant advantage in the first place. So I really like where SoA is going. They did, however, have a strong draft on paper in the first game as well. It didn't really do them too well. However, I think this time around they bring everything to the table that you need on a map like Tomb of Spider Queen. They've got great wave clear with Vala, Rag, Johanna, and Nazeebo, and their team fighting capabilities are also very, very powerful, with Oriel constantly generating energy from a Vala. They could even put the Bestow Hope on a Nazeebo if Vala isn't really nearby. So all in all, I like what I'm seeing from SoA. On the other hand, let's talk about RPG here. A very, you know, bursty team comp, I want to say. If they blow someone up after taunting them with Varian, they can follow up with the Entangling Roots, they can follow up with a minigun from Tychus, and the Zeratul, of course, not to be underestimated either. So, Techer, who would you think has the better draft this time around?
I would still give it to RPG. Like you said, their burst comp is really good. Zeratul could, in theory, be countered by a solid Aegis, because, let's be honest, it's very unlikely to be res.
Good point.
So it's very much a situation of if SoA can run it well and delay to the late game, which they can absolutely. With Rag, Valor, and Nazebo, Johanna, it's almost impossible that they can't delay till the late game unless they absolutely get crushed and get picked off a lot of times, which the one hero who could really make that happen for RPG is Zeratul. So yes. I'm really going to lean over to RPG. They've shown the potential.
And once that Void Prison goes down, it is basically time for RPG to make their move. They have Tychus Odin to follow up, as you said earlier. They have a Variant Tutor's charge in, they have the Malfurion Entangling Roots to keep everyone in place from the enemy team. So I really think that their combo is not super easy to execute. It never really is with a VP. It all comes down to mechanics and timing and coordination. But if it goes off well, the enemy team is in for one hell of a ride here into the painful worlds. Now guys, ladies and gentlemen, game number 2 between SoA and RPG is going to go down on Tomb of the Spider Queen. And once again, Tetra, I just can't believe how hyped I am to see those unknown teams for the very first time.
Couldn't agree more. This is going to be super exciting. We are loading in to Tomb of the Spider Queen, map number 2. And it is Nazebo, Ariel, Ragnaros, Johanna, and Valor coming in for SoA.
Yeah, looking good. Their late game capabilities are just through the roof. The moment Nazebo gets those 150 Voodoo Ritual stacks, he's going to be a menace, an absolute menace. And on this map, it shouldn't really be too hard to accumulate those stacks because, as we said earlier, rotations are of the essence. He's going to be able to farm a lot of minion waves. On the other hand, though, we see a very aggressive comp with the Varian as the only true frontliner, probably going to go very parry heavy. We see Zeratul going strong in those early game rotations if everything goes according to plan. So we're in for a clash of playstyles. Aggressive on the side of RPG and more passive, more defensive when it comes to SoA.
So we are in fact starting with a parry build from the Varian. Big surprise there, no one expected anything else. We are harvesting a Moonburn from Malfurion as opposed to the standard scouting drone.
That is very interesting indeed, because Scouting Drone really has become the standard, if you will, across all Malfurion builds on almost any map. It offers so much utility. It basically lets you observe and track down the enemy team's movements very well. Sometimes, we all know that from our own experiences, you just end up attacking a Scouting Drone because you don't want it to be there, and surprise, surprise, the enemy team is nearby and takes you down.
The baiting Scouting Drone is very, very satisfying if you're able to pull that off. So an interesting strategy here, we saw at the start a 4-man into the bot lane, or a 3-man kind of into the bot lane, with Johanna being as the sort of protection for anyone who roamed down to try and help Falstad on the side of RPG. And did a good job, was able to prevent Zeratul from coming down, so they're able to do some big damage onto bot lane, and are now moving into the more standard mid-top rotation. With Rag mostly guarding the top lane, they're sort of having the 3-man rotation while Rag permanently stays on top, and Nazebo is their solo laner.
This is really weird, because if you let Nazebo solo lane, he's not going to be able to accumulate as many stacks as he could have otherwise if he rotates between 2 lanes constantly. So this is quite the interesting choice in terms of laning phases for SoA. They're actually putting more focus on rotating between middle and bottom now. The more traditional approach is to use top middle instead, because the distance is a little bit shorter. And I'm not really sure if Ragnaros needs that much babysitting or that much help from his allies. He's normally the one that can hold his own in a solo lane very, very well.
Yeah, it's a very strange rotation. It's the 3-man rotation with Nazebo and Ragnaros sort of having a lane to themselves. And both of them are going to be able to stack and defend their solo lanes well. Difference is, Rag as the melee hero versus the range of Tychus will slowly get whittled down unless he can actually get into melee range here.
And look at that top lane, like 50% of the ammo has already been drained without really putting too much pressure on it. You mentioned it, Tychus actually a very scary solo laner if you are a melee hero like Ragnaros, and Tychus also can dodge those molten boulders very, very easily from the W's. So I don't think Ragnaros is a really good spot, and I don't think they imagined this laning phase to go that way.
No, it is a very peculiar laning phase. We'll see if it works out for them in the end. By the way, Valor went for a more standard hot pursuit and multi-shot. I say standard, but I'm obviously biased to the EU side. This is slightly more standard for EU, but for all we know, this could be standard for China. This is our second day your second day casting, my first day casting the Gold Series. So everything is unstandard today.
Absolutely. Once again, now we see...
Low Zeratul going in, grabbing that kill with that Vorpal Blade.
Feels good. Feels good for sure. Vala, unfortunately, not there to live another day, but she will be back in 10 seconds. So a nice little, advantage already on the side of RPG. They were soaking a little bit better. They were rotating a little bit better. And what's more important is the fact that Ragnaros was completely shut down. They also take care of Johanna, who tried to interrupt the first turn from happening, but in vain. Really, really good body blocking and really, really good pampering here for the turn-in. I like RPG's playstyle all in all. They show good rotation once again with the Zeratul going in, but they also know when to turn in and when to go for an objective. Nice execution. Very cleanly done by RPG once again.
Yeah, very patient on that Zeratul there, guaranteeing that kill. They wanted to make 100% sure that Malfurion would land the root instead of Zeratul accidentally Vorpal blading into the enemy base or Vorpal blading into tower range and getting himself killed off. Very cautious, very safe play, and it nets them a kill. Now they have one less hero to defend against this Webweaver push. Right now, with the 4-man push in the mid lane with this Webweaver, going to drop a huge amount of damage. Here's finally the reaction. Ragnarok's going to drop Molten Core due to how much pressure's been put here.
Yeah, and the Molten Core being popped, and I really like how RPG is now retreating. Oh, Tychus is in trouble! Sniped, baby!
Meteor's got him. Nicely done by Ragnaros there.
Yeah, really, really well done. And there was nothing really for Tychus to be done. Malfurion was nowhere near to help him out. And once you get hit by that first initial slow, it is really, really hard to dodge the remaining spells from the Molten Core. So we can't really put Tychus too much at fault here. But it was also a nice distraction, keeping Ragnaros busy and allowing them to get more towers. And that really shows in the overall global experience gap here that they have one entire level lead is pretty good if you want to pressure an Zebo team, and if they can maybe extend their lead even further, they don't really have to be afraid of the late game anymore either.
Zebo has pleb pulse. I'm super tilted. We're seeing a turn in the temp from SoA here. Not interrupting the Ragnaros. Zeratul slightly missing, but oh my god, that micro dodging everything that Ariel threw at him, able to easily escape. Now Tychus dropping a little bit of damage from above here. Rag, however, was able to turn in his 30+ gems, which is very satisfying. That's a big load off SOA's chest. So now they just need to get in the rest of the gems they need for their first turn in of the game. But we are seeing RPG still continue to play a little bit aggressive. An attempt by Johanna, but the rotation will prevent that turn in.
Yeah, the rotation will be stalled for now. A very interesting build also coming in from Falstad. We don't see a normal mage burst Falstad build. We see a much more sustained damage Falstad build going for Seasoned Marksman and the Life Leech at level 4, for example. And I can't really fault him for that, especially on this map, because as we said, you're going to be able to farm a lot of minion waves, so the Seasoned Marksman is going to get a lot of value. I really love those cheeky in and outs from Zeratul, dealing a lot of damage here on Uncle G on the Ragnaros, so you can really see the mechanical prowess from RPG here. They weren't really on anyone's radar up to this point, but I think they're playing some wonderful Heroes of the Storm so far.
Yeah, Chicken really showing his skill here. He's playing very aggressively, moving up. He's spotting the Zebo around this area. He's trying to hunt him and trying to prevent him from doing any kind of rotating here. He may even get Ariel if she came down, though. She's going to stick with her team here. Turn-in has happened here. And it is a red turn-in again. RPG with their second of the game. Still a lot of gems currently sitting on that Johanna for SoA.
I kind of like the fact that SoA is not really paying in just yet, because it would be a push with level 9 against a level 11 or level 10 team a couple of seconds earlier. So when you turn in pre-level 10 while your enemies are level 10, you're not going to get much value because you can't force anything. You can't bait the enemies into fight. You can't really push with your Webweavers because the enemies are not going to get baited into that, right? They can just push you back easily with their heroic ability advantage. So I like that they're stalling it a little bit more, whether they do it on purpose or whether they just can't get a turn in because RPG won't let them. It's still not too bad of a situation for them to be in.
Varian gets the slow onto the Zebo, but the Molten Core, good cleanse onto Tychus, allowing him to retreat. Varian, with his parry, protecting himself through that as well. He's getting slowed, but a beautiful disengage by RPG after a great Molten Core to save the fort, at least temporarily. But RPG just not letting it happen. Heroics, by the way, were picked for SAO. They do have Aegis, the Sephiroth Smash, Strafe, etc. Standard stuff here.
Oh, here comes the Odin.
The Odin being dropped here as a siege tool to try and take down this mid fort. Good route onto Rag. Not really any follow-up for it, just a little auto-attack from the Odin, but it's mostly just to stop any kind of counter-engage to defend here. But with 5 heroes here for SoA, it's going to force a bit of a retreat. Good Aegis being dropped there, and that will keep Johanna alive.
Yeah, I think the main reason why Odin was popped here was to get that forward eventually, but SoA is doing a pretty good job defending this one so far. But with Vala being extremely low and Oriel not being a good sustained healer, she's really dependent on Vala's combat performance. And if Vala drops low, and Oriel can't actually help her out in that situation, so they had to pull back. That is probably one of the biggest disadvantages of having a solo support Oriel in your team, because if your team is not doing well in the first place, Oriel cannot really do her own part to improving on that situation.
Yeah, we actually saw Vala very nearly get killed off there. A Twilight Dream was dropped directly on her face. She had barely activated Volt first. Otherwise, she would have been completely stuck in that danger zone and would have possibly got herself killed off, because Aegis was dropped on Johanna, and when you have to drop Aegis on your hero as tank as Johanna, you know you're in trouble. Look at Varian, he just doesn't care that he was engaged upon there, immediately turns around, Aegis is dropped, and Vala bolting into the Void Prism, but where'd you go from here? Goodbye, Fred. Oh, good heal, actually. So for us, though, not able to get any value here. Varian once again tagging through all this. Vala taken out in exchange for nothing other than cooldowns.
Now, we praised RPG's team fighting a lot in the last few minutes, but I think this was where they, for the very first time, looked a little bit uncoordinated, because we saw the VP go down and Falstad basically used his gust into the VP. Of course, didn't affect anyone at all from SoA, so there was a little bit of a miscommunication there, I feel, but still, they didn't really have to pay the blood price. Everyone is still alive on their side, so they should be able to defend against that incoming web push against SoA very, very handsomely here. Keep in mind that SoA also doesn't have the level 13 talent, so it is a little bit debatable whether they should have gone for the Pain at that point in time, because they could have waited for half a level. Potentially, let's see what they can make happen, though. Most of their rig abilities are now freshly off cooldown. We see the Aegis being ready again. We see the Gargantuan making an appearance relatively soon, but Nazeebo is actually fighting against Zeratul in the middle lane.
Varian putting pressure on, though. We saw a nice little stunner onto Tychus and Varian, keeping them a little bit further back. Varian had Fountain available. Odin dropped very early. If we could see SoA disengage this, rejoin Nazeebo, maybe put some pressure onto the bot lane once Odin has expired, they may be able to get some really good value out of this. We see Johanna to try and prevent some rotations here, and that's exactly what they do. They move to bot lane. The wave was already low here, but the wave is super pushed, so they can attempt to try and get something with the minion wave that is just arriving here. They're going to try and put some pressure onto this bot lane using the zombies here. And once again, Johanna still preventing rotations, hiding in the bushes, keeping an eye out. Good Void Prism, though. Can they follow up on it? The fort does go down. Molten Core is dropped, and that will save all the members of SoA here. They're going to try and get Varian, and I think they might be pushing it a bit too far here. Even with Molten Core, the Gust is used to exchange them. And that does actually bait out, so for a smash,
Ice Block too.
Used there.
Yeah, they baited out a lot of spells here on the side of RPG, so despite, kind of going deep there and kind of putting up a risk, they still managed to get at least some value. And they pushed RPG so far back that they're going to get another turn in right off the get-go. So SoA definitely showing some signs here that they're still alive. They're still a team to be reckoned with. And I really like their performance much more in this second game compared to the first one. And keep in mind that they still have late game power in their favor. So the longer the game goes, the more time they buy and the more they push RPG back, the stronger their outcomes are going to potentially be, with that Nazeebo online, with that Ragnos hitting really hard in the late game as well, with that Oriel Vala combination. At level 16 you get the attack speed bonus maybe on the side of Oriel, which could really amplify Vala's damage overall. But here's another team fight. Odin used once more.
Yeah, Odin's being dropped very early each time, but that's not always a bad thing. That big AoE damage is going to help them clear up this Web Weaver a lot quicker. And they can quickly rotate up to top lane with reasonable speed. But top lane is about to be sieged. Molten Core is not going to be available for a while. A Gust used to protect Infinity. So let's see if they can make something out of this. Good grenade by Tychus. Varian thinking about going in. Engages, drops a lot of damage. The Aegis is dropped, as is the defensive banner. They get immediately killed by the Aegis damage. Strafe from afar, only really hitting Varian. Not going to be enough to really... Oh, Zeratul very nearly drops the VP. Gets 4 members. Nazeebo is nearby. Oh, Nazeebo, you don't want to be there. Drops the Ice Block, protects himself, but the Twilight Dream after the VP does a huge silence, and they're going to pick up lots of kills here. They already have 2. They're about to get to Hannah and make it 3. Ragnaros will escape. Oh, good attempt.
Chicken!
There. Ariel, no, getting killed off. And the boss
yeah.
is aggro, so RPG are just like, yeah, sure, why not? They will take that.
This just went from good to perfect on the side of RPG. They killed Oriel in the boss pit, just being like, okay, I guess we're now going to take the boss for sure. They couldn't have imagined a better case scenario, but look at that team fight. It was so well executed. Varian forces in early ages every single time by recklessly diving into that Vala. Then Zeratul isolating the Nazeebo. Look at that. In the bottom, he is all by himself now. 4 members caught in that VP, followed up by a nice entangling roots, and the ensuing silence here, hitting 4 or 5 members. I wasn't really sure. Like, that was an amazing display. RPG just absolutely dominated that team fight, and it was so well executed.
This is why Zeratul is so feared on the international stage, and why we are apparently seeing a lot of prioritization on him in the Chinese scene in the moment. So now the boss pushing in here. Ragnaros, I don't know if he has multi-core available. I guess we will find out. Probably won't be needed. Web Weaver is being dropped, though, so that might be
if he multi-cores now, I think he's going to die.
Going to drop it and drop a big lot of siege damage. That will force a little bit of a retreat here out of RPG, at least pulling back to a safer sieging position as opposed to an aggressive push position. And the multi-core getting killed off so early because of the boss quickly. And the Web Weaver damage.
Yeah, the Odin just hammering from afar onto that Molten Core, the boss doing the same thing. Like, this Molten Core was basically a wasted one, I feel. However, they're trying to defend. Varian once again going in strong. The Vala Strafe has been popped here. And I think RPG, if they get some more kills here in that top lane, they could actually go for a core rush right there. And I think they know that they're still holding all the trump cards in their hands. The other lanes are getting pushed in. SoA needs to defend on multiple fronts, bottom, middle, and top at the same time. And this could be the moment for RPG to pick up another member.
Falstad has to use Gust. He does escape from it. Nice use there. And unfortunately, that will put a stop to their push. And in the meantime, that was their 3 versus 5 that they nearly killed Falstad with. Rag and Nazeebo have been de-pushing mid and bot this entire time. Bot is quite low, pretty close to being dead here. The first keep of the game. So that's available for RPG to pick up if they're able to grab maybe a kill or 2. But right now, 7 kills to 1 in favor of RPG. A 2-level lead for RPG. But there are still signs of life from SoA.
Yeah. There is definitely not out of this just yet, and keep in mind that due to the way the map is designed, to Brand Queen that is, even if you lose a keep or 2, it's relatively easy to defend catapults compared to other maps, because you have short walking distances, you can easily rotate from one lane to the other, defend against those incoming catapults, so you're not really with your backs against the wall until, you know, the core is exposed or until the core is being threatened, so it is not too late for SoA to make a stand. Keep in mind that it's still 3 levels though until Nazeebo reaches his final form.
They also do still have some of the best wave clear in the game, so even if they do start losing keeps, they still have ways of keeping themselves in the game. Say Zeratul wants to just kill the keep by himself, which he can do. The question is if there's going to be a reaction, if they'll spot the lovely stealthiness of him to be able to pick him up. They're not going to be able to rotate in time. They're not even going to bother. Instead, they know Zeratul's not with the team. They're going to try and get something. Ice Block blocks the Sulfuras there. The opening Sulfuras was very risky. Aegis used very early again. They're going to try and kill Varian here, but it's Varian. I don't know how you intend to do this. And in fact, Varian
you can't kill
escape.
him. People thought that Varian would be fun to play against when they removed the Warbringer stun, but I think it's worse than ever before. You can't kill the Varian. He's just going to parry and get invul over and over and over again. And I also like the Mortal Strike here at level 13. You can really see how the Mortal Strike prevents Oriel from getting her massive burst heals on. And this cannot be underestimated because Oriel is similar to Lottie Morales. Like, if you don't deal with her, if you don't stop her from healing, or if you don't reduce the effectiveness of her healing, she's oftentimes going to be the crucial factor to decide a teamfight all by herself. So the Mortal Strike, the importance of Mortal Strike cannot be underestimated.
Good Molten Core, though, keeps Ragnaros alive there. Aegis was still on cooldown for 7 more seconds. Molten Core used just as a protection here. Falsa just flying over the top of it. Not sure where he's going. Lots of siege.
I think he's waiting for Ragnaros to get out.
He's waiting for the gust. Moving in. The nuke is dropped. Rag is deleted by Zeratul. Falsa coming in from above, doing huge damage. You can try and gust them into the corner. When it is available, Twilight Dream to follow up. There it is, but everyone blocks it.
Well, everyone blocks it.
Protecting it. Ariel was alive at least for a second there, but Falstad gets the kill anyway. And even though that was great protection from the Twilight Dream, it is still only Johanna remaining. Everyone else was picked off, and we're seeing RPG. There's an open core. Bot lane is destroyed, so they're able to move in that way, and they're going to attempt to start working that down. Right now, it is just false side. Everyone else has to take the long way round. Not everyone has wings. Now they're going to try and kill off Johanna. They easily do, and that's going to be GG. RPG taking game number 2.
So, this game almost as one-sided as game number 1, but there were some improvements to be seen on SoA. They fought a little bit better. Their execution when it comes to dodging spells like the Twilight Dream in particular was actually okay. And let's face it, they managed to get 1 kill compared to 0 kills from last game. So, that is an infinite percentage improvement. Yeah, exactly. And